Okay, a few hours ago, a new trailer for Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak was just showcased in the latest Nintendo Direct. Now, there are two main points I would like to discuss in this video with regards to the trailer. Firstly, let's talk about the new monsters that have appeared in this trailer. I will try and keep this brief since I've already talked about them in a previous video that unfortunately got taken down, but regardless, these are all welcomed additions to an already stacked roster. Let's start from the top. The final form of Gore Magala will make his return and I am all for it. Shagara Magala is undoubtedly one of the most memorable monsters that you would encounter in 4 Ultimate, and he brings a lot on the table. Incredible looking weapons, an intense fight that brings an overall imposing presence to any game that he's included in. Very glad that he's back. Now, on to a Furious Rajang, which I find to be quite surprising, but welcome regardless. His return in a title update in Iceborne gave me, and plenty of other players, some of the most extreme and frustrating battles in that game. But beating him was one of the most satisfying things to come out of that DLC. Plus, not only that, but his gear isn't too bad either. And now we get on to the most anticipated entry in this trailer, the Scorned Magnamalo. I may have already said this before from the mentioned previous video that got taken down, but I'll say it again, this guy is badass. Take what you already have of Magnamalo, ramp up his ferocity and savageness to 11, and add a shit ton of hellfire and you get this beast. I think everyone was anticipating for Gosarag to have a variant, and I'm all for that prospect, but this will do us nicely. I am getting vibes from the original Magnamalo in the very first Rise demo, literally one-shotting players, and I think we're going to have that again, and this time in a proper monster now. Afterwards, we are getting Seething Basilgoose in a title update, which to be fair I don't mind. He's not really my favorite variant, but he does look cool and I do rate his fight. From the way he alters his little scales to the fact that he is a literal living nuke when he gets mad, it's gonna be madness. And lastly, we get a sneak preview of what looks like an Elder Dragon at the end of the trailer. Obviously, if you know how these trailers go, any ominous quick clip after the end of any Monster Hunter trailer will likely state that this guy is the final boss for Sunbreak. Now, I'm going to be straight up with you. I may have already discussed about this supposed endgame monster in a previous video that also got taken down, but I am just going to have to leave it at that. We are going to have to talk about this topic in another day. Now, that is pretty much it for my first point. These are 5 unique additions to, once again, a very solid lineup, and there really isn't anything to complain about with regards to these guys. I think that with this trailer we are shown that not only are we getting more variety in the monsters that we fight, but a very impressive wave of difficult and challenging monsters to cap off the DLC. All of the trailers have given us a lot of exciting additions and returns that will really help solidify a fun experience with this DLC. However, that also leads me to my second point. Did the developers show us all there is to experience in the DLC? Have we just witnessed literally all of the monsters that there is to fight in Sunbreak? Once again, I really don't want to mention leaks or spoilers, but unfortunately I'll have to mention it here. So if spoilers aren't for you, you should drop this video right about now. Now, with that out of the way, I feel as though that is pretty much it. This trailer, along with the rest of the trailers and previews that we've just seen of Sunbreak, pretty much showcases the entire roster of the DLC, which gives us a total number of, wait for it, 17 new monsters added to this game, excluding the title update entries in Lucent Nagakuga and Seething Basilgoose. And that right there is the main issue that's hitting the community. Last week, it has been leaked that we are only getting 17 new entries at the release of Sunbreak. And when that happened, boy, was Reddit, Twitter, and everywhere else mad as hell. Let me compare this to the last G-Rank entry in the franchise. Iceborne had 27 new monsters at launch, which is almost twice as much as with this DLC. Let me go even further. Gen Ultimate had the biggest roster at launch of any Monster Hunter game in the main series. At least with Iceborne, we got almost as much monsters revealed to us in the trailers as we did here in Sunbreak. But at least we did have a few surprises in store for us for when we played Iceborne at launch. We had Brute Tigrex, the 2 Metal Rafts, Shara Ishvalda, it goes on. And yet here with Sunbreak, the fact that the entire roster for the DLC has been shown to us, paired with the recent leaks confirming that this is all it, pretty much diminishes all surprises and new entries that we have not seen yet. This is mind-boggling. We are not really getting any surprise fights during this DLC. There is no anticipation for any other new monsters. This is it, guys. All of the trailers, from the reveal up to this one, has shown all of them. Genuinely, the only surprise that we have is the mysterious dragon from this Nintendo Direct trailer. And even his information is out there. From his lore, his weapons, his intro, pretty much. It's all there. Now, on one part, there really isn't anything to blame here but myself. I mean, I went out of my way to find these spoilers, and now I know that this is all it. But at the same time, I did expect that there would be more, you know? The one thing with trailers is that they are there to get the customers and fans hyped. And here they are showing us some incredible entries to this DLC, and don't get me wrong, I love almost all of them. I love the 2 crabs, I love Seregios, Gore Magala is one of my favorite monsters in the whole franchise. I mean, sure, you get some iffy ones like Aurora Somnicanth, and who genuinely asks for Magma Almudron. But regardless, we are done. We are done guessing and predicting who is appearing in this DLC. It is literally over. All that is left is to just wait for the DLC, and that is it. There's no predictions, no wish lists, no guessing games, no whose favorite monster is going to come in the next title update or what have you. This situation is literally the phrase, what you see is what you get. Now, it is not all doom and gloom. Yes, I will admit that the total roster count is not what I've expected. Yes, I do feel like there should be more entries included in this DLC, and yes, I do feel as though Sunbreak has the potential to have the biggest number of monsters in any of the previous games. Now, I love a huge lineup of boss fights. I enjoy content when the content keeps coming after beating another boss and beating another boss. And I do enjoy it when you have so much on your plate, in this case monsters in a Monster Hunter game, that you literally get overwhelmed with the amount of stuff that you can do in a game. But hear me out, there is a very important counterpoint to this, and it's very cliche. Cliche, predictable and simple, but it does ring true to any game that you play in your time. Quality over quantity. Now let me ask you, do you like Coral Puke Puke? Do you remember Nightshade Palumu? What about Bomboro? Do you even remember your first fight with Beotodus? Like, no offense to anyone who likes these monsters, but I have to say, who is literally going to overlook Scorned Magnamalo? Who's going to say no to Shigara Magala? And what Neanderthal would say that Daimyo Hermitaur has wasted a slot in the roster? This is a Daimyo Hermitaur fan channel, and you will be dealt with if you get caught hating my red baby. It is as simple as that. Iceborne is a great entry to the franchise. I still remember my first encounter with Velkhana, right up to Fatalis one-shotting me. But the simplicity of quality monsters we are getting in Sunbreak makes up for its size twice over. Generally, I feel as though we as a fanbase has been spoiled by the content of Iceborne and Generations Ultimate, but what people seem to overlook is 2 things. Does this game have a great lineup of bosses regardless of its number, and is the endgame going to be better this time around? Let me explain. I distinctly remember Base Rise, without the 3 Elder Dragons, without Valstrax, and without the Allmother. It is extremely barren with endgame content. It went like this, right? Farm Narwa, trade her parts for the charm melding, and boom, there's your endgame for Base Rise. People were excited that Base Rise had a bigger roster than Base World, and then look what happened. A forgettable endgame loop that had to be rescued by future title updates. Now I know this was during the pandemic, and I know that things got delayed and that, but really, we didn't even get the true ending to Rise until a further title update. And that is the point I have to make clear. We are getting treated by what looks like to be one of the best lineups in the franchise, and what we should worry more and pay attention more to is the endgame content to Sunbreak. Furious Rajang and Magnamolo won't be enough, I understand that, but if you're going to speculate, if you're going to worry and get your hopes down, then you gotta look at the stuff that matters. You gotta look at the stuff you do at the end of the DLC and not during it. I will always choose a quality roster over a bloated one, where you only pay attention to 1/3 of the monsters and the rest you just ignore, but I think it's better to appreciate what we have now. With this current number of monsters in Sunbreak, I think it's better to appreciate what we have now with this current number of monsters, and hopefully be more hyped in more important matters. The endgame to Sunbreak.